Welcome and thank you for joining us for the General Operating Support with Optional Youth Employment in the Arts Grant for fiscal year 2027. My name is John Golick and I'm a Program Director at the Illinois Arts Council. I'm joined by two of my colleagues.
Hello, I'm Jackie Banks-Malum, Director of Programs for the Illinois Arts Council.
Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine Robertson, Program Representative.
This webinar will give you an overview of the guidelines and the application process for the Illinois Arts Council's FY27 General Operating Support Grant, or GOS, application, as well as the Optional Youth Employment in the Arts, or YEA, application. Here's a brief overview of what we'll cover in today's webinar. First, we'll talk through how to use the guidelines and review eligibility before going step by step through the General Operating Support application. Once we have talked through the GOS application, we will discuss the Optional Youth Employment in the Arts Supplemental Grant. Then we'll move step by step through the application process. We will often refer to the General Operating Support Grant as GOS and the Youth Employment in the Arts Grant as YEA. Program Representative Jasmine Robertson will give us a live demo of the Program Director Search feature and the Salesforce portal for those of you who might not be familiar with it. And lastly, we'll wrap up by sharing further details about what to expect once you've submitted your application. At the end of the presentation, we'll share some additional ways to connect with us to ask any questions you may have. There's a lot to cover. However, please remember that everything discussed today can also be found in the GOS guidelines. If you need a paper copy of the guidelines, you can print them either from the IAC website or the IAC Salesforce system after you've logged on. First, the Illinois Arts Council is a government agency that was established in 1965. We are governed by 21 citizens appointed by the governor. Our budget is allocated by the state of Illinois' General Assembly and supported by additional funds from the National Endowment for the Arts. The IAC consists of a board, otherwise known as the council, a staff, and readers who assist with the application review process. The council's mission is to build a strong, creative, and connected Illinois through the arts. And we do this by offering support to Illinois' arts sector, advancing arts education, and fostering creativity and working artists. GOS applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on March 18, 2026. The agency cannot accept late applications, so we strongly encourage you to begin the process early and with enough time to reach out for support should questions arise. The GOS and YEA FY27 grant period begins on September 1st, 2026, and runs through August 31st, 2027. General Operating Support grants are offered to not-for-profit organizations and branches of government that provide arts programming to their defined communities within Illinois in a manner that supports the mission of the organization. Successful applicants demonstrate ongoing arts programs and a strong commitment to making artistic programs accessible and relevant to a diverse range of participants. GOS is a non-competitive grant program that funds eligible applicants that meet the review criteria dependent on available funds. Eligible applicants must also be able to meet certain requirements to qualify for the GOS grant. Because the GOS grant is a reporting application, every organization must have 1 full year of arts programming and closed book financials. All applications must come through the Salesforce platform. Organizations will apply using a Salesforce account registered to the organizational applicant. All grant materials must be submitted on or before the deadline. Multiple applications are not accepted from an organization for the General Operating Support Grant except for colleges and universities. All applicant organizations must have a valid FEIN and UEI number. All applicants must be pre-qualified in the state of Illinois' Grant Accountability and Transparency Act database, also known as GATA, which we'll talk more about later. Allowable and unallowable expenses. For an organization with a mission dedicated to the arts, IAC GOS funds may be used to support any eligible expenses associated with the general operations of the organization, including but not limited to rent, utilities, and staff salaries. For organizations that have ongoing arts programming but do not have a mission dedicated to the arts, IAC GOS funds must be used to directly support the ongoing arts programs. For a full list of allowable and unallowable expenses, please refer to the guidelines. In order to be eligible for funding, all GOS grant applications must meet the review criteria. First, your organization must be eligible to receive funds from the state of Illinois. This means that you must be pre-qualified in the state's GATA system, must be compliant with IAC requirements, and not be on the Illinois Stock Payment List. Second, all required fields and attachments must have been correctly completed and need to be in the requested format. Lastly, all arts activities must be clearly serve the organization's mission and have a dedicated focus on the arts in Illinois. This means that we first need to make sure your mission is clearly listed in your applicant information tab and that all art activities that you list serve the mission of the organization. Returning applicants may know that in recent years, IAC has been working with a 3-year cycle. With lessons learned from the past 2 years, we are moving to accepting the same application from all applicants and implementing a 3-year review cycle. Applications will go through a full reader review every 3 years and an internal staff review in interim years. The schedule is listed in the guidelines. In addition to the General Operating Support Grant, the Illinois Arts Council is offering the Youth Employment in the Arts Grant. YEA is an optional grant that may be applied for yearly as part of the IAC's GOS application process. IAC's Youth Employment in the Arts YEA program may provide funds to organizations who are awarded the GOS grant to support employment opportunities for youth. Jobs may be administrative or artistic in nature, or a combination of both. The grant is intended to support temporary intern-style opportunities for youth across Illinois. YEA is not intended to support ongoing employees at organizations. Due to limitation of funds, YEA is a competitive grant program, and not all applicants will receive funding. Additionally, only organizations who receive FY26 and FY27 GOS funding are eligible for YEA funding. Applicants for the Youth Employment in the Arts Grant may request up to $4,500 for up to 4 youth employees, ages 14 to 22, at the time of hiring per year. Grant recipients must comply with Illinois state employment laws, and the stipend offered must be no less than the Illinois minimum wage. Youth employees may also participate in 1 IAC-supported position per year. Youth employment must be contained within the activities described in the GOS application, and youth employees must have appropriate supervision by staff of the applicant organization. Note that staff is considered to be those individuals the organization requires to maintain daily operations. Staff is not necessarily defined as paid positions. Youth employment in the arts intends to provide the following outcomes: positive experiences and training in the arts, skill development, a deeper and broadened connection to the community, greater awareness and understanding of the impact and value of art, and staffing support to further the goals of the organization. To be eligible, applicants must be approved for an IAC FY26 and FY27 GOS funding, be compliant with all IAC requirements, and have no record of penalties or forfeiture of IAC grants in the current or previous fiscal year. Submit YEA application materials with the GOS application by the deadline. If you choose to apply, the YEA application is automatically submitted as part of the GOS application. The deadline and grant period for GOS and YEA are the same. One additional note: colleges and universities are not eligible for the YEA program. The review of the Youth Employment in the Arts Grant application is based on successful evidence to the following application requirements: that the application is complete and all requirements have been met, that there is evidence of appropriate supervision in the applicant organization, and that responsibilities are meaningful and support growth for the youth employee and the organization. Now we'll take a closer look at the GATA requirement. The term GATA refers to the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. GATA is a database that confirms that applicants are eligible to receive funds granted by the state. Registering for this database is a requirement to receive funds from the state of Illinois and the Illinois Arts Council for the GOS and YEA grants, and applicants must have a pre-qualification status in good standing to receive a grant award. The URL for the GATA site is on the screen now and is linked in our website and guidelines. By applying this federal guidance to Illinois state grants, this removes duplicative processes as well as increases accountability and transparency among all Illinois state agencies. Applicants may submit an application while still working toward GATA pre-qualification status. However, if an applicant is not in pre-qualification status 30 days after the deadline, the application will be made ineligible. To register in GATA, you will need to have the available information listed on the screen: your fiscal year end date, organization type, Illinois State Secretary of State file number, Federal Employer Identification Number or FEIN. All registered 501c3 organizations have an FEIN number assigned to them. You can find it on your federal tax returns. SAM.gov, or the System for Award Management, or SAM registration, is a separate federal registry, and active registration is a requirement under GATA. As part of the SAM.gov account, organizations are assigned a unique entity ID, or UEI code. The UEI code is what the federal government replaced DUNS numbers with in 2022. For those with an existing SAM.gov account, the UEI can be found by logging into your SAM.gov account. If you are registering with SAM.gov for the first time, you will receive the UEI code in your setup. Both SAM.gov registration and GATA need to have registration confirmed annually. SAM.gov and GATA are also both free registration platforms. If you are being charged any amount of money, we've seen it as high as $800 for SAM registration, you have been diverted to a third-party website. Be cautious in following links and emails, and do not pay any fee associated with a request via email or mail. Confirm all communications about your SAM.gov status by logging into your SAM.gov account. If this is new for your organization, we recommend that you begin with the GATA and SAM.gov registration because there is a processing time involved. But you can work on GATA, SAM.gov, and your GOS grant application all at the same time, and even submit your Salesforce IAC application before completing GATA. Do not wait for your UEI number or GATA registration to be confirmed before submitting your GOS or YEA application. It is okay to submit without it and follow up once it has been fully processed. If you are brand new to the GATA portal, you will want to click on the button in the middle labeled Create Account. If you already have a portal account, you will want to click on the button to the left that says Grantee Portal Sign In. Check with members of your organization who might already have a GATA account before creating a new one. We also recommend that you check out the GATA New User Guide. The PDF contains step-by-step instructions for registering in the portal, as well as answering common questions. This guide can be helpful not only for new users, but to current portal users as well. I also recommend checking out gata.illinois.gov, a website created by the Grant Accountability and Transparency Unit at the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. This unit is considered the statewide expert on all things grants and GATA. They have a large amount of information, manuals, and references on several grant subjects. All applicants must be pre-qualified each year. All applicants must be pre-qualified, and each year you are required to re-qualify. As mentioned, the first time you pre-qualify will be a longer process. Subsequent applications are much simpler. What do we mean when we say pre-qualification? The state of Illinois has defined a set of requirements for all organizations seeking to receive grant funding. Pre-qualification demonstrates that an organization has met all legal requirements and has obtained all the necessary registrations. Pre-qualification status must be first obtained by an organization, but this status must then be maintained throughout the life of your grant, or if your organization wishes to continue to apply for and receive grant funds. Pre-qualification status must be met by 30 days after the close of the grant application in which you are applying. Let's look at this screenshot example of how pre-qualification looks in the GATA portal, which can be found at gata.illinois.gov. The items in red require action by the entity and need to be addressed. In this case, it is the sam.gov account and the Illinois Secretary of State registration that are in red and need to be addressed by the grantee themselves. To the right of each red box is a help button. Please refer to this help button to receive more information on how to remediate the issue. The items in yellow are being evaluated by the state and are considered pending. Any item in yellow should automatically update within the next day or two. With these items clearly outlined in the portal, potential grantees are equipped with the information they need to correct these errors and work towards pre-qualification. An entity must have an active registration with the System of Award Management, or better known as sam.gov. The sam.gov registration must be validated annually. Your entity's sam.gov registration should be set to public, not private. If your sam.gov registration is not set to public, the federal site, sam.gov, cannot properly sync with the state site, GATA Grantee Portal. UEI number stands for Unique Entity Identifier. This number is used in sam.gov, and you will need this number to register on the state GATA Grantee Portal. It is important to note the difference between signing up for sam.gov and actually registering. Signing up with sam.gov will provide the grantees with their UEI, but does not mean the account is fully registered. Registration entails TIN and cage codes validation, as well as other processing and validation. New registrations can take an average of 7 to 10 business days to process. Grantees will receive an email alert once the registration is active. Other tips for navigating the GATA Grantee Portal: be sure to maintain a current and accurate contact list in the portal. You want to make sure that the right people at your organization has access to your portal page and are receiving notifications. In this screenshot, you can see the button in the portal called Manage will allow you to manage the portal access. You will also want to confirm that your entity's fiscal year end date is accurate in the GATA Grantee Portal. Finally, our friends over at DCEO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Development, have some terrific animated videos on GATA. Specific videos to view are pre-qualification, registering with sam.gov, and creating a GATA account. DCEO is not able to answer any questions about IAC grants or GATA, but these videos may serve as helpful tools. One final note, the Illinois Arts Council doesn't operate or manage any aspect of GATA or sam.gov. As stated, it is best to reach out to those organizations should you have any questions.
Thank you, John. Now that we have reviewed the GOS and YEA grants, let's transition to the application process itself. As a reminder, the written guidelines will be a valuable tool as you navigate the application. We have carefully documented each step in the application with a corresponding section in the guidelines. These guidelines are meant to serve as your detailed step-by-step guide, so please have them handy and consult them often in the process. All applications will be submitted via the IAC's Salesforce grant portal. The link to our portal is found in the upper right corner of our website header and also by going to the web address on this slide. All applications are due by Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. To get started in Salesforce, if your organization has previously used the IAC Salesforce system, log in using your organization's Salesforce login and password. If your organization is a first-time applicant, create a new profile with a username and password. Some Salesforce tips. Applicants need to use Chrome when working in Salesforce, as that is the browser Salesforce is optimized for. If you have had staff or board transition and need access to your Salesforce account, please have the new individual managing the grants set up a new user account. Notify IAC staff when that is complete, and we will reassign the organizational account and past grants to the new user. Please do not make a new organizational account. We suggest you may want to consider having a grants at or development at email address to use for this system that can be maintained through future staff or board transitions. If you are having trouble creating an account, try resetting the password on your email to see if you may already have an account. Sometimes applicants are unaware that they had an account in the system, and it will not let you make a new one if that email address is already registered in Salesforce. Also, sometimes users get caught in a password reset loop. Please reach out to IAC if this happens, and we can offer assistance from the back end. Lastly, and we will see this more clearly in the walkthrough, but the Financials tab component within the application is not utilized for GOS. That is part of the architecture of the grant platform and is used for some other grant programs, but is not utilized in GOS. Here you will see a list of the application components for this year's General Operating Support and Youth Employment in the Arts grants. I will go through each of these components throughout the next few slides. Once logged in, navigate to the Applicant Information tab. Returning users should update their information, especially for contact information. New users will make an account for their organization. When making an account, please use the organizational name as it is listed in your taxes. This is the entity the comptroller will issue the payment to, so listing a different name will delay the process. There are fields for DBAs if you would like to list that. Do not create an individual account for this grant, as GOS and YEA are both only able to be granted to organizations. On this tab, you will list all contact information for both the organization and key individuals, including board president, authorizing official, and executive director, and accessibility coordinator. We require applicants to choose an accessibility coordinator. And the accessibility coordinator is simply the person at your organization who would answer any accessibility questions. Excuse me. For example, if a patron called to ask if your facility was wheelchair accessible or if you offered large print programs, who would answer that question? You will also input the year the organization was founded and the organization's mission. You will make a primary discipline selection for the organization, and you will be able to choose multiple secondary disciplines, selecting as many as applicable. Colleges and universities, please select multidisciplinary as the primary discipline and the specific applicant disciplines as the additional disciplines. You will need to add staff and board demographic information here. These will determine what percentage of your staff or board identify as Black, Indigenous, or persons of color, or BIPOC. Note that staff is considered to be those individuals the organization requires to maintain daily operations. Staff is not necessarily defined as paid positions. You will also enter your UEI number, which is 12 characters, and the FEIN number, which is 10 characters including hyphen, in this section. Please note that in the Applicant Information tab, details may be updated at any time. Please keep contacts current to ensure communications from IAC reach the appropriate staff or board members. While the applicant information can be updated at any time, the details submitted in the application at the time of the deadline will determine designations for rural, high poverty, BIPOC leadership, and/or a mission to serve the disabled community. Please visit the guidelines for full definitions pertaining to rural, high poverty, BIPOC, and disability data. Note that rural and high poverty are both determined internally by your applicant zip code. BIPOC, or Black, Indigenous, and/or people of color organizations are determined by as having 50% or more of staff or board identify as BIPOC. And communities with disabilities are defined as organizations where the mission is based on serving the disabled community. After you have completed your applicant information tab, you can shift your attention to the application itself. Under the Grant Programs tab, select General Operating Support 2027. If the user has multiple applicants set up, the system will prompt the selection of the applicant organization to move forward. On this main section, please also provide applicant's department, if applicable, though this is a required field for all college and university applicants. The applicant's website, if different than what is submitted in the applicant information tab. Confirmation that the applicant information tab has been updated, and the GOS grant notification official name and email. The next question you will answer is if your mission is dedicated to the arts. If all your organization's activities are focused on arts in some form, then you are an arts organization, and your answer is yes. If your organization includes art programs amongst other priorities such as broadcasting, higher education, sports leagues, park districts, historical preservation, social services, religious activities, library services, arboretums, journalism, and city services, then you are a non-arts organization, and your answer is no. We expect that applicants without a mission dedicated to the arts would be organizations such as municipal entities, social service organizations, park districts, libraries, churches, etc. Colleges and universities must select no to this question. If the answer is no, you will need to provide a revenue and expense budget to the arts programming in the most recently completed fiscal year for which you have closed book financials. There is guidance in the guidelines on examples of eligible expenses for organizations without a mission dedicated to the arts. Please note that IAC reserves the right to request an arts-specific budget breakout or additional budget details for all applications. 990 information. Please note you should only fill in one set of numbers, either the 990 information or the recently completed fiscal year revenue and expense fields. Do not fill out both. So if you selected yes that you are an arts organization, you will be prompted to enter the revenue and expense from the most recently filed federal IRS 990. If you entered no that you are a non-arts organization, you will enter the most recently completed fiscal year's revenue and expense related to your arts programming. Note that if your mission is dedicated to the arts in Illinois, but you complete a 990N or 990 postcard, please select yes and enter your revenue and expense as you have them listed in closed book financials. For arts organizations with a standard federal 990, enter the revenue from line 12 and the expense from line 18. For arts organizations with a federal 990 EZ, enter the revenue from line 9 and the expense from line 17. Again, if your mission is dedicated to the arts in Illinois, but you complete a 990N or 990 postcard, please still select yes that you are an arts organization, and then enter your revenue and expense as you have them listed in closed book financials. Are you also applying for youth employment in the arts? You can only fill out the YEA application by selecting yes when the question is asked. You cannot decide later to go back and answer yes, as the application will no longer be available. Please be aware that even if you begin the application and are just looking at all parts of it before filling it out, you still must complete the YEA section before moving on to reviewing the rest of the GOS application. If you do mistakenly select no, you should contact your program director and start a new GOS application, only filling out what is necessary to complete the YEA section, and then leave the rest of the GOS application in progress. If you are not applying for a YEA grant, select no, and you will be prompted to continue filling out the GOS application. If you select yes that you are applying for the YEA grant, you may request up to $4,500 for up to 4 youth employees. Please complete the following fields that comprise the YEA application. Department, if applicable. Providing acknowledgement that your youth employees will be between the ages of 14 to 22. The employment opportunities will occur during the grant period. All grant recipients must comply with Illinois state employment laws, including minimum wage. And the youth employment must be contained within the activities described in the GOS application and must be supervised by employees at the applicant organization. You'll also add the YEA grant notification official name and email. Please include the number of weeks, hours per week, and hourly stipend per youth employee that would be funded by the IAC grant. Include the supervising staff name and title, and a brief description of the youth employee's responsibilities. Please do not enter a request amount in the field that says total requested amount. That field will auto-calculate based on the information entered for number of employees and their weeks and rates. Once you complete this section and click Save, a separate YEA grant application will automatically be created and submitted, and you will see the application appear under your Applications tab. Please note that after any application is started, it will appear on the home screen in the Salesforce grant portal. We recommend preparing the following supporting GOS documents ahead of time and saving them as PDFs to your computer. The supporting documents to be uploaded as attachments are an application narrative, arts activities from the previous 12 months, board and staff listing, Federal IRS 990, 990EZ, 990E postcard, or 990N, or other documentation of a full organizational budget if a 990 is not filed, such as in the case of a municipality. Financial form for organizations that do not have a mission dedicated to the arts, and the accessibility self-assessment checklist. The first of those is the application narrative. The narrative is limited to 1 page and must focus on the most recently completed fiscal year. The narrative must be organized using boldface headers in the order they appear below. Mission and define community. State your mission, define the community, which are the individuals your artistic programming serves. Programmatic relevancy. Describe artistic programs offered and how they support the mission of the organization, and describe how the programs offer opportunities to Illinois artists. Second is arts activities from the previous 12 months. This supporting document is limited to 2 pages and should describe arts activities from the previous 12 months. This can be a detailed listing of programs, performances, exhibits, etc. If there are other completed activities pertinent to your operations, such as developing a strategic plan or undergoing inclusion, diversity, equity, and access training, applicants may list those activities as well. The document does not need to be artistic. Please do not include photos, graphic images, or other embellishments. A simple chronological list or timeline is sufficient. Though, if you do have a brochure or marketing materials that are already created and list your arts activities, you may upload that as well. Board and staff listing. On no more than 2 pages, please list the current board and staff of your organization with the details listed on this slide. Staff is considered to be the individuals the organization requires to maintain daily operations and is not defined as paid positions. For some applicants, the board and staff listing may be the same individuals. Please note in the attachment if this is the case. Applicants whose mission does not have a dedicated focus on the arts, including colleges and universities, must provide a list of arts program advisory board or committee members. Do not provide the institution's board of directors list. If preferred, applicants may utilize an optional template for this supporting document, which is available on our website. The Federal 990 supporting document is required for all applications so we can see the scope of your full budget. We are asking for the Federal IRS 990, not the Illinois 990 AG. All 501c3 applicants must upload their most recently filed Federal IRS 990, 990EZ, 990 postcard, or 990N. IAC expects the most recent 990 would be from the fiscal years 2025 or 2024. If your 990 is prior to FY24, please contact your program director in advance of submitting your application. If you are an emerging organization that does not yet have a completed 990, please also contact your program director in advance of submitting your application. Municipal applicants that do not file a 990 should include other documentation of their full budget. For organizations with a mission dedicated to the arts, the expense and revenue fields populated in the application form fields should match the revenue and expense fields listed within this uploaded 990. The financial form is only for applicants that did not have a mission dedicated to the arts. If you answered no to that question on the application fields, you will need to upload the required template documenting revenue and expense for your Illinois arts programming from your most recently completed fiscal year. This includes all colleges and universities. Some examples of eligible expenses include payment to staff or contractors responsible for arts programs, supplies utilized for arts programs, space rental, utilities, and insurance required for arts programs, marketing for the arts programs, etc. Additionally, all applicants that have headquarters and locations in multiple states will need to upload the arts programming budget to detail the revenue and expense specific to Illinois. For applicants that provide broadcasting services, the applicable expenses for arts programming as defined by IAC for the GOS application must be related to locally produced arts programming. For organizations that do not have a mission dedicated to the arts, the expense and revenue fields populated in the application form fields should match the revenue and expense listed in this financial form. Note that the fiscal year on the financial form should also match as the same fiscal year from the uploaded 990. Your organization will also need to complete an accessibility self-assessment checklist and upload it as part of the application. This checklist is intended as a self-assessment tool to encourage organizations to continue thinking about how to expand their accessibility. The checklist is required for an application to be considered complete, but the answers are not evaluated as part of the review process. The checklist does not replace the Section 504, which you should complete and keep in your organizational files. Listed here is contact information for IAC's Accessibility Coordinator, Danielle Heel, if you have specific accessibility questions. IAC does try to offer a range of accessibility resources to support ADA efforts. The Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, requires that persons with disabilities have access to public programs for services on an equal basis with the rest of the general public. Federal law mandates that any program or service that receives federal or state funding must be accessible to persons with disabilities. The IAC is committed to ensuring that programs and services it funds are accessible to persons with disabilities, including those with visual, hearing, mobility, and learning impairments. The checklist does not replace the Section 504. Please bear in mind that it is rare for an organization to ever be 100% ADA compliant. ADA compliance is a spectrum and should be an ongoing goal or pursuit, with awareness and education being the first steps. For further information and resources on ADA compliance, please visit IAC's Accessibility Resource page. Submit and certification. Please note this is a two-step process to both certify and submit your application. Once the application is complete, click the Submit button in the lower left-hand corner. A pop-up will require certification of eligibility and application content. After certification, there is a Submit button which must be clicked to complete the application in the IAC Salesforce Grant Portal. The application will not be successfully submitted until the second Submit button is clicked. Now that we've reviewed the supporting documents, that concludes the application review. You may also reach out to your program director should you have any questions about your application. Regional program directors are your first point of contact for questions about IAC's funding opportunities. This map shows the regional breakout for our program team across the state. To find out who your program director is, please do one of the following. If you are based in Cook County or the surrounding suburban collar counties, you are considered a member of our Chicago metro region. To find your program director, you will enter your zip code in the program director finding tool where it reads search, which is highlighted in yellow on this slide. If you are based outside of Cook County and the surrounding suburban collar counties, you're considered a member of our state regions. To find your program director, you will search by your county under the pull-down menu under county, which is highlighted here in yellow. Next, Program Representative Jasmine Robertson will present a live demo of that program director's search tool, IAC's website, and the Salesforce platform to help orientate you. Jasmine?
Hi everyone, I'm going to walk through step-by-step how to complete your General Operating Support 2027 application. You're going to start by going to the Illinois Arts Council website, and you can find the General Operating Support grant under the Organizations and IAC grant tabs. There, you'll click Learn More on the General Operating Support grant and be taken to the GOS webpage. These buttons at the top here are links that will take you to different information about the grant. So we have the link to apply, the pre-recorded webinar, priorities and policies, info on accessibility, past grantees. There will also be guidelines here. And there's our Find Your Regional Program Director tool. If you would like to confirm your regional program director before applying, you would just click that Find Your Regional Program Director button. If you are located in any of our metro regions, which include the counties listed in this top section, then you would search for your regional program director by entering your zip code. If you are not listed in any of these counties at the very top here, then you would select your county from this drop-down list, and the tool will let you know who your regional program director is. So to apply, you would click the Apply Now button on the GOS webpage, and you will be taken to the grant portal. Before you get started with your application, please go into the Applicant Information tab on the far right and make sure that the information there is up to date. To update your information, you would select your applicant and update any information there that needs changing. To start your application, please select the GOS application under the Grant Programs tab and click Apply. You'll be brought to the first portion of the application, which asks you to fill out notification and financial information fields. Under the financial information section, if you answer no to the question, is your mission dedicated to the arts? You'll be asked to fill in your recent fiscal year revenue and expenses. If you answer yes to that question, you will be asked to enter your 990 expense and revenue. The final question in the first portion asks if you would like to apply for the Youth Employment in the Arts grant. If your answer is no, you will save and go on to the next portion of the application. And if your answer is yes, then you will go ahead and fill out the fields in the Youth Employment in the Arts application. Under the Add Employees section, you'll be asked to enter the number of weeks, the hours per week, and the stipend per hour for each employee. You're able to add an employee using that Add Employee button and remove an employee using the Remove Employee button. Please also note that the request amount will be auto-calculated based on what numbers you enter into this chart here, so please be sure not to change the amount that is auto-calculated in the request amount field. After the first portion of the application is complete, you can go ahead and click that Save button and move on to the next portion of the application. Please also note that that Save button does go ahead and submit your Youth Employment in the Arts application. The next portion is where you will upload your required supporting documents. So you'll click into the Supporting Documents tab on the left side of the screen here, and you will upload your required supporting documents. You'll know that they are uploaded because when you hover over it, they will turn green. There's also a financial information tab below the supporting documents on the left side here. It is simply a part of the architecture of the site and is not utilized in this application. If you do click into it, you will be given an error message. And you would simply click the return button to get back to your application. After uploading your supporting documents, you can go ahead and submit your application. On the left side of the screen here is a button for submitting your application, as well as a preview application button, which generates a PDF of your application for you to look over before you submit and have for your records. Also, as you are submitting, you will be asked to certify your application. And from there, you would click that second submit button, which submits your application. That's all for completing your General Operating Support and Youth Employment in the Arts 2027 applications. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jasmine. Now we'll talk about the review process, notification to awardees, and grant compliance. When the application is created, the Salesforce Grant Portal will issue an application number that will be used in future communication regarding that application. Applications which have been ruled ineligible or incomplete will not be reviewed. Applications are reviewed based on the review criteria. The final recommendations are presented to the IAC board for their consideration and approval. A record of the review process is maintained for all reviewed applications. Applicants may reach out for review feedback after receiving decision notification. All applicants will be notified of funding decisions once the IAC has reviewed and approved funding recommendations. Applicants approved for funding will receive via email instructions regarding requirements to accept and claim the grant. This will include uploading additional documents to Salesforce, such as a W-9 and copies of letters written to your elected officials. Please note that some email systems direct IAC notification emails to spam email boxes. We encourage you to mark no reply at webmerge.me and InsureSign at send.insuresign.com as safe email addresses in your account. Once all documents have been returned via the IAC Salesforce Grant Portal and all requirements met, including the completion and filing of all previous fiscal year final reports, the grant will be processed and the payment voucher will be set to the Office of the State Comptroller. Once the payment voucher has been received by the State Comptrollers, payments can take from 2 to 6 months. Grantees can check the status of the grant payment through the Comptroller's vendor website or sign up to be notified about the payment via email, text, or both. Grantees can also sign up for direct deposit from the Illinois Comptroller. Grantees are eligible for direct deposits if they have received a payment from the Comptroller's office within the previous 24 months. Otherwise, the check will be mailed to the address on file. Please contact the Comptroller's office at 217-557-0930 if you would like to set up direct deposit. All FY27 GOS and YEA grantees will be required to complete and submit a final report no later than September 30th, 2027, as stated on the grant agreement. Final reports will be available in Salesforce Grant Portal 4 to 6 weeks prior to the deadline date. The IC Grants Office will notify grantees when final reports have opened in the Salesforce Grant Portal. Any grant award over $25,000 requires a quarterly report to be submitted. Quarterly reports list the grant amounts spent during the quarter. Grant recipients must credit the IAC in all promotional material and public notices with the logo and the following text. Your organization name acknowledges support from the Illinois Arts Council. For further information regarding usage of the logo and to download a copy, go to the logo page of the IAC website.
GOS grant amounts are determined by a combination of factors, including the IAC's annual budget, which is determined by the State of Illinois General Assembly and approved by the Governor. The final funding formula for GOS takes into consideration the total number of fundable applicants and the size of their arts-focused budgets. YEA award amounts are determined by the requests made and the available funds. Because IAC does not yet have its FY27 budget allocation, we cannot determine award sizes for GOS at this time. For reference, the FY26 minimum award amount for GOS was $2,500. Funding is always contingent upon a sufficient appropriation for the grant program by the General Assembly and satisfactory reporting and reapplication by the applicant. At the time of application, IAC's FY27 budget will not be confirmed yet. While the Council recognizes the need for arts organizations to have financial support, grant funds from the Council should be considered supplemental, and no guarantee can be made for support for more than 1 year. A few final reminders. The application closes at 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. Awardees will receive notification via email, and the award process requires an additional processing of documents. You will need to be able to submit these documents to the IAC Grants Office via the Salesforce Grant Portal. Once your documentation is complete, payment from the State Comptroller's Office can take 2 to 6 months. This award will require a report no later than September 30th, 2027. Finally, in the guidelines, there is a GOS and YEA worksheet. Applicants may use this checklist as a tool to assist in preparing their GOS and potentially YEA applications. Applicants should always read the guidelines for full details on the application requirements. If after today's webinar you find you have further questions, you are welcome to join us at any of the upcoming drop-in sessions. These do not require registration, nor do you need to stay the full hour as the name suggests. You can simply drop in with your questions. This slideshow shows the Program Director Finding Tool URL that we reviewed earlier. And if you need Salesforce assistance, please reach out to Jasmine. IAC staff work a hybrid model and we're best to be contacted via email. Thank you for joining us for this webinar, and we look forward to reviewing your application.